Hello, and welcome to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway podcast. That's right. Your host and tour guide is Scott Prevett, a healer, hypnotist, and a magician. And your bus driver is Jason Gobelli, also a hypnotist, an entrepreneur, and a spiritual guide. Disclaimer, neither Jason, Scott, or any of our guests here today are licensed professional psychologists or psychiatrists. So please don't make any changes to any medication or treatments that you are currently on based on the conversation that you hear here today. Just hop on the bus and enjoy the ride. Trip with us on the Inner Revelation bus. That's right.
Hi, welcome back to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway. I'm Jason, and today we got a great guest. I'm excited to have him. We got the world-renowned stage hypnotist, Michael C. Anthony. Michael, how are you?
Yeah. I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Wonderful. We're excited.
Awesome.
We've been looking forward to this. Ain't that right, Scott?
Heck yeah, we've been waiting for this for a while.
That's right. So, Michael, let's get started right off the bat. Tell us about who you are and what you do.
All right. I'm Michael C. Anthony, full-time stage hypnotist, have been for 30 years. Before that, I was doing magic and mentalism and all that kind of stuff back when I lived up in Canada. I'm in Florida now. And I've been a road warrior, if you will, for 30 years around the world. Of course, all 50 states in America. I've performed in Canada, South America, Australia, all through Europe. I've been there. I've done that. Awesome. Stage hypnosis has been very good to me over the years. And a number of years back, I created a training program called Stage Hypnosis University, where I train people from complete newbies to get on stage and start a new career doing stage hypnosis, or even if it's a part-time side hustle. A lot of people have a desire to just break out of the mold they've been in and go do something fun and go, even if they stay in the mold they're in, but entertain an audience, get the applause, get the check at the end of the day. And hypnosis is a great way to do that, right? And break into the entertainment world, if you will. So that's a nutshell on me. I've also a best-selling author, Body Language Secrets, How to Read Minds by Reading Bodies, where I talk about body language. And I use all of these different things, the hypnosis, the body language, the mentalism, all the psychology behind it to put on a stage hypnosis show that I've been doing for 30 years. So that's that.
Nice. So here's a big
Awesome.
question for you. We know you're so good at hypnosis and that, but when did you have like that aha moment that not only am I entertaining people, but I can actually change lives and help people?
Right. Yep. And when we first met, as you reminded me, you purchased one of my products and you knew nothing about hypnosis. Am I right when I say that?
Right. That's right.
You hadn't jumped into the world yet. And we discussed things, as you reminded me, and you went the way of therapeutic hypnosis. I introduced you to Mike Mandel, Hypnosis Academy. And you went that way, and that's where you guys met, apparently, right? And here we all are. The hypnosis world is a fantastic tool. Whether you want to entertain somebody, whether you want to help somebody, whether you want to persuade somebody, whether you want to use all these fantastic tools we have in the hypnotic tool chest, if you will, to better our own lives and to better other people's lives, or in my case, get hundreds or thousands of people in a room and show the phenomena that is capable, that is possible with hypnosis. And so it's such a fun tool, and it can be used for so many things, so versatile.
Nice. So let's talk about this for a second. I noticed that on your thing, one of the things that you do is you don't do progressive relaxation, but kind of, because you have them have their head fall forward, and the next thing you do is you go straight for the ankles. What's that all about?
Straight for the ankles. Sounds like a good name for a hypnosis book. Straight for the ankles. Well, yes.
Nice.
Here's what I do. Within Stage Hypnosis University, I recommend my students. Here's what I recommend my students, and there's a reason for this. Let's say you're doing a therapy session, okay? And it's a one-on-one session. Well, you can say whatever you want and literally be as boring as you want because you don't have an audience watching. And it is possible, if you want to bore someone to hypnosis, you can do that. I'm not saying you do, of course, but I'm saying sometimes a progressive muscle relaxation all the way down, top of the head, the nose is relaxed, the chin is relaxed, the neck is relaxed, the shoulders, everything's being relaxed. To an audience, that's not as entertaining. And as a stage hypnotist, entertainment is key, right? So if you've seen my induction and in the video version of this podcast, I know some of them are video, some are not. I can set you up, hook you up with some videos, or maybe you've got them already. But I do start my induction with a little bit of progressive muscle relaxation. Yes, everybody, focus right here. Close your eyes now. Start to get tired. And then I immediately go for the neck. I say, I'd like everybody to pay particular attention to the muscles in the back of your neck. In a moment, those muscles will be so much more relaxed than they were just a moment ago. Won't it be worth holding your head up at the position that it's in or was in? Your head will never snap backward heavily. It will always go forward, chin towards your chest. That's on the count of 3. 1, 2, big juicy pause, big juicy pause, big juicy pause, and 3. Boom, necks go down, okay? Now, I do allow the relaxation to spread down the shoulders, progressive muscle relaxation, if you will, which is fine. I've got no problem with it. But I don't want to go through, because this is entertainment, hundreds of people are watching. At that point, I want to get into the really fancy, elegant, eloquent, Ericksonian type hypnosis that is going to, yes, put people right into the floor if that's where you want them. I don't always ask them to go to the floor. Sometimes they simply do, and that's perfectly fine with me as long as they're physically capable to do it. But as we know, somebody who's not physically capable of doing it, they're not going to go onto the floor. Got a bad hip, got a bad knee. They're not going to do that kind of thing. So I'm not against progressive muscle relaxation in a therapy session. On stage, I think it's lacking because it's not as interesting. I used to have people come up to me after a show in the early days. They would say, "Oh, that was fun, but it just looks like you're telling them what to do," and they do it, right? Almost like a role-playing game. And I didn't like that, right? And I thought, and that's after that, I learned about the Milton model and all the different details that pertain to that and how you can make hypnosis through things like confusion techniques, mind reading statement, analog marks, all the Ericksonian patterns, how you can do all those things. And it's fascinating to an audience because now here's what people come up to me after a show. They'll say, I don't know what you were doing, but I can tell you were doing something, right? Now that is mystery. That's hypnosis. That's entertainment. But again, in a therapy session, say whatever you want. No one else is watching. Doesn't matter. If it's working for you, fantastic. But over doing this 30 years, I really like to be elegant with it. I have recently, over the last number of years, sometimes it happens. If there happens to be a stool side stage, I don't ask for one on my rider as of yet. I probably should. I pull it out. I sit there. I talk into the microphone, and people start going into hypnosis and dropping all over the floor. I want it to look like I'm just a normal dude who can sit in a chair with a microphone and people start falling and people start doing all the crazy things, right? That have to do with hypnosis. I give them what they expect a little bit with the progressive muscle relaxation. Everybody knows with hypnosis, people are probably going to close their eyes and get relaxed and sleep if they use the word sleep. They expect that, so I give it to them, right? But then I shift gears. Remember, as a stage hypnotist or a hypnotherapist, you're the expert in the room, right? What you say actually goes. And to break the to break script, if you will. I'm not a scriptnosis guy, but to break script, sometimes when I'm on stage, I'll say, okay, Mike, break some rules. Don't go along with every perfect rule, every hypnosis. They say this, do this, then step 3. I don't, because as a hypnotist that is professional and respected and owns the room, if you've got the prestige, because you're the expert, you tell them what hypnosis is. There's a saying in hypnosis that is this: hypnosis, it isn't what you think it is, it's what you think it is, right? So if you're telling the volunteers what it is, you're right.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's why, people do all the hypnosis without using trance and all this stuff. And I understand that. That's fine. But what is trance? Trance is what we decide trance is, right? So if I've got 30 people on my stage and I'm putting them in hypnosis, we have to remind ourselves, well, at least with stage hypnosis, probably 30 minutes before this happened, this person had no idea what hypnosis was, right? No idea. So therefore, me being the expert in the room, I'm going to tell them what it is. I'm going to show them what it is, the way I'm doing it. That's why it's not vitally important to skip to every checkbox, right? The professional hypnotist scripts. A lot of newbies start with scripts. That's fine. Scripts are a great guide, right? So part of my hypnosis, I'm not going to say it's scripted, but it comes out of me, parts of it, the same way every night, only because, like, if you go see David Copperfield, if you go see a stand-up comedian, it's going to come out of their mouth almost the same way every night. Why? Because over experience, they have learned in the realm of entertainment, if I say it this way, it hits a bit harder. If I say it this way, it's a bit funnier. If I say it this way, it's got more shock and awe to it, more effect, like a mentalism effect. You guys know that. You mess with the mentalism, awesome. And when you do it a certain way, it punches. And that's when I'm teaching mentalism, I say this, and it's true. I say the same one trick in the hands of an amateur is cute. The same trick in the hands of a professional is a miracle, right? Because they've taken the time to hone this thing. So when I'm on stage, I've just realized I've been ranting for so long. For your next question, when I'm on stage, the most important thing to me is to sell the hypnosis as real, because it is. But if a hypnotist is just up there checking the boxes, not really confident in what he's doing, then it's not going to come off as powerful and as strong. My audience walks in the room, many of them, like this. I don't know much about this hypnosis stuff. I don't think this stuff is real. But my goal by the end of the show to walk out and say, I didn't believe this stuff coming in, but I can't deny what I just saw, right? That's the goal of a stage hypnotist, to make sure people walk out of that room going, wow, I didn't know such a thing were possible.
Nice. Nice. So all the world's a stage, right? So do you do this outside as you're in public, maybe going to a restaurant to the waitress or what have you?
Not so much the hypnosis, mentalism, yes, magic, yes, all the time. If I go somewhere, some neighbors are throwing a party, whatever it is, and they'll say, hey, Mike, can you do some card tricks or something? Well, there's my little routine, a little MCA secret here. I've always got some things in my car.
Yeah.
But I don't want to travel with them. I don't want to make it seem like I want to perform. I know they're going to ask me when I go to a personal function of some kind. So they'll say, hey, Michael, can you do something for us? My first question is, do you have a deck of cards? Because anything I can do with a deck of cards, I can do with their cards, right? 90% of it. And the other things I just won't do. So I know that I'm always prepared, but I don't want to seem like I'm ready. I say, do you have a deck of cards? If they have them, great. We're doing miracles with their props, which is all the better as far as I'm concerned.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm not much of a street hypnosis guy. I can do street hypnosis. I do it. I've done it on television, right? But it's just to me, it's kind of like it's practice. And I don't really need practice, is what I've been doing for 30 years.
Well, speaking of television, tell us about some of those television shows you've done.
Well, I've done lots of things. I've shot pilots for, I did one for this one was for Viacom. So at the time, was it MT? No, it was VH1 at the time. And it was called Trance Rock, and it was to hypnotize people to become their favorite rock stars, right? This was at the very beginning of reality television. The office across from us was Ashton Kutcher doing Punk'd, right? That was right at the beginning of it all. And it was so funny because this one girl, I hypnotized her to be Mick Jagger, right? And you have to understand, we were shooting all day. So my job was to keep these people in trance. Do I need to take them out for lunch period? Okay. Do I need to put them back in for an hour? Then we need to stop, right? So I was nonstop. And there was this one girl who was just waiting for her spot. And she was Mick Jagger. Her name was Kira. And it was time for her to get in front of the cameras. I had her all, you are Mick Jagger, all this, right? And so she's waiting all by herself. And the producer comes up to her and says, hey, Kira, can you go over there? And she ignores him. And he says, hey, Kira, can you go over there? They're ready to shoot. She doesn't answer. And he goes, Kira. And she looks at him and goes, my name is Mick. Right? Yeah. So I've done other TV shows where for phobias, we did one on really bizarre phobias. And this episode was, the fears were a girl was deathly afraid of bananas and a guy was deathly afraid of mannequins, right? And so my job was to reverse these phobias, which I did. And we ended the show with this girl. They rented a dump truck full of bananas, went to this mansion in Beverly Hills, took a dump truck full of bananas and dumped them into a swimming pool that had water in it. So just picture 10,000 bananas in a swimming pool, right? And by the time this girl, to prove that she was released from her phobia, dove in the pool and swam with all the bananas, right? Weirdest thing, right? The guy who was so afraid of mannequins, we brought him to a mannequin factory. If you want to go, and this was in LA, if you want to go somewhere weird, go to a mannequin factory. I'm not afraid of mannequins at all, but this is the weirdest place you've ever seen in your life. They just had to play some horror music. You're like, what is this? Someone's going to come out. Yeah. So I also traveled with the Illusionists. After a worldwide search, they chose me to be the hypnotist for the Illusionists. The Illusionists, if you don't know, it's a traveling theatrical show, does performing arts centers, usually 2 weeks long, one theater, beautiful theater, 3,000 seats, 2 weeks straight, 2 to 3 shows a day, 6 magicians, and I was the hypnotist. And that was a great time too. We went around the world and great time. And I've done numerous talk shows and things. So here's the funny thing about hypnosis. When I do a standard talk show, I don't generally go in with volunteers. And some hypnotists might say, for what reason? If you go see Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's going to be on the Tonight Show. Okay, they don't say to Arnold Schwarzenegger, hey, act for us. And he has to get up and start acting, right? What he does is he shows a clip. I come to talk shows with clips. They talk about me. So tell me what you do. Oh, I do this. I do this. I do this. I can borrow somebody's belt and make them think it's a snake. Really? Yeah. Go to the clip. And we go to the clip and we show that. So then they're seeing how it is supposed to happen. I, as the hypnotist, am in complete control. They're not going to send me some very a subject that's not a great subject. So, I have the risk of potentially having a weaker spot. I mean, I shouldn't have a weak spot, but the reality is this: if you've got a great volunteer, great. If you've got a subpar volunteer, they only give you one, it's going to be subpar. So I would much rather go to a clip. And that's what I do. I go to clips when I'm doing talk shows because that way I've got complete control and I know what's going to happen in the clip.
Nice. And speaking of clips, you're going to give us a few clips that we can use as a bonus session for people who want to check those out, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll get those sent to you for sure.
Yeah. How did you even get started in this?
I'll tell you how. My great uncle, his name is Joe LaMonica, was a stage hypnotist. I never saw him perform stage hypnosis. He was also a magician. He was a pickpocket, professional pickpocket. He wasn't stealing people's money, professional pickpocket. And he was also one of the forefathers of balloon artistry. Anytime I see, a guy over 40 twisting balloons, I'll say, do you know who Joe LaMonica is? And he goes, of course, because he's one of the forefathers. He created all these fruit baskets. He came up with a lot of this stuff. He wrote books on it, right? Anyway, he was a stage hypnotist. I never saw him do it, but I always knew in my mind, Uncle Joe is also a hypnotist. I've seen him do magic. He pulled coins out of mine and my brother's ears when we were kids. We thought we were rich, right? But I always thought, what is this hypnosis stuff that my Uncle Joe does? Is he in bed with the devil? I didn't know, right? Right? Because that's what a lot of people think. It's satanic or something, right? But coincidentally, outside of him, as a teenager, I got into magic, close-up magic, mentalism, right? And I got pretty good at it pretty quick. Maybe it was because of his blood. I don't know, right? But it wasn't until I actually ran a cookie store up in Canada. It seems like another life. And I would do card tricks for all the customers and they loved it. All kinds of people would come and it was fun. One day a guy comes to me and says, hey, do you want to go see a hypnotist? He goes, here's the ad in the newspaper. Who is it? Mike Mandel. Who's that? I don't know, right? Some long-haired guy at the time looked like Jimmy Page, right? I go, yeah, I'll go to this club and go see this show. That's what my uncle used to do. So, within 20 minutes of watching the show, I knew this is what I want to do. I don't know how, right? But this is what I would like to do. And so I worked on it and I worked on it and I like a crazy person.
Who taught you hypnosis?
A lot of it I learned through books. There was no internet.
Yeah.
A lot of it I learned through books, little pamphlets. And here's what I did. Tell me I got the biggest balls or I'm crazy. One of the two is true. Yeah.
No.
No, I went on stage. I booked remember I told you I owned a cookie store.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I had been studying hypnosis, Mike and a few other guys. I had what I thought was a show in my head. Was it going to work? I don't know, right? And I owned the cookie store. The cookie store was in a shopping mall. And a kid comes up to me who worked at Radio Shack. Remember Radio Shack? And he would often come to my cookie store to watch me do my card tricks. He would get a coffee for his coffee break, all that stuff. And one day he goes to me and like, this is another one of those weird things, like me walking down the basement where my brother was watching David Copperfield. This kid goes, hey, you should come and do your card tricks at my college. I know the girl that books the shows, right? And I go, you know the girl that books the shows? He says, yes. I go, tell her I'm a hypnotist. He goes, you do hypnosis? Yeah. Right? But in my head, it was up here. Could I do it? I don't know. right? Now, what I had going in my favor was that I was already a magician, mentalist. So I had a stage presence already, right? I knew how to perform. Just did I know how to perform hypnosis? Anyway, so yeah, tell her I'm a hypnotist. You do that? Yeah, sure. And so I go, can you get me her phone number? He gets me the number. I knew at this point, if I could get her to get a few colleagues together from the colleges, few girls, few guys, give me a deck of cards, some coins, whatever. I'm going to bamboozle them with my magic and mentalism, right? And use that to segue into the hypnosis. So I say, I call her, hey, I'm Michael. Ed told me about you. Can we, I'd love to have a meeting with you, I said. Okay. She said, sure, I'd love to show you guys some crazy mind reading. Sure. Right. So I go there a week or so later. She's got 6 or 7 people together. I got them all laughing. I got them all wowed. Right. And she says, so how much is the hypnosis show? I had no idea what to say. By this time, I had heard through somebody who knew Mike Mandel, and this is 1993. Mike Mandel could make as much as $700 to $1,000 per show, which back then was a fortune, right? Still good money, right? But back then, I've raised my price many, many times since then, of course. But I said, she goes, how much is the show? I said, $700. She goes, okay. In January. The date of this meeting was September 29th. I remember because it was my birthday. And the show was in January. So I knew now, are you a hypnotist? Do you know this thing you have in your head? Would it work? I don't know, right? I got 3 months to figure it out, right? So I decided not to start hypnotizing my mother or my brother. Something inside me said, through everything I'd learned or read, something inside me said, when you practice on people you know that well, they're just going to say, you can't hypnotize me, Mike. Who do you think you are? You own a cookie store. You're not a hypnotist, right? So I decided to skip that, right? Crazy, right? And so I had posters put all over the school. My show was coming. I get there, 220 people are at the show. At the end of the show, I get a standing ovation. Up until that moment in time, I'd never hypnotized a person in my life. But I went on stage and did it, and it was flawless. Why? Well, I'm not going to say flawless. But by that day, to my standards, that day, it went great. But I practiced in my bedroom using a hairbrush as a microphone. I did that show over and over and over until I was sick of it. I saw the audience laughing. I saw the volunteers going into trance. So when I'm doing this show, the very first thing that proved any kind of hypnosis was a suggestibility test, a hand clasp test, right? So everyone's got their hands out, and I'm going through what I thought. I hope this works, right? And as your hands get tighter, continue to focus on your hands, because you realize they're glued together like rubber cement. The more you stare, the tighter they continue to lock. Pressure building further. Once I get to the count of 3, they simply refuse to open. We're going to start the count on 1 as they go tighter, locking further. 2, superhuman strength, unbelievably tight, refusing to open on 3. Go ahead and try. And they couldn't open their hands. The audience is going, what? I'm going, what? I couldn't believe it. Right? But on the exterior, I'm like, yes, this is hypnosis. This is what I do, right? I couldn't believe it was working. And then later on in the show, I remember that old show, I turned a girl into Madonna, because that was the great thing to do at the time. Turned a guy into Tarzan. And when I said, and whenever I say the word Tarzan, you'll jump out of your chair, you'll beat your chest, you'll scream, oh, and I scream Tarzan. This guy gets up, he's wearing a dress shirt. He beats his chest, He rips his shirt open, buttons fly everywhere. The place is going crazy. And I'm going, oh my gosh, it's working, right? The whole show, everything worked fine. But I went in there. That's why I say either I got balls of steel or I'm crazy, right? One of the two. But sometimes practicing on somebody that's the wrong person causes you to feel like you don't know what you're doing. Okay. What did I do? I skipped it all. I put myself in the middle of the stage. I'm the one with the prestige. I'm the expert in the room. Why would this organization hire me if they didn't think I was a great hypnotist? They don't know I sold this hypnosis show on mentalism. And that's why mentalism is such a beautiful segue into hypnosis, because even though they have nothing to do with one another, at the same time, they have everything to do with one another, because what you do with mentalism makes the people go, if he can do that, he can probably hypnotize people, right? You're rolling out the red carpet. It's best foot forward, right? And that's what I did. Crazy as it sounds, I skipped the practice. Now, I didn't skip the practice altogether. I did this in my bedroom with that hairbrush as a microphone over and over. So I knew I was going to sound confident, right? I knew that if it doesn't work, it's because I don't know anything about hypnosis. Maybe I know enough. Maybe it's my confidence on the stage that sells the hypnosis as well. And it does. If I was up there with my microphone going, okay, we're going to hypnotize. If you'd like to volunteer, come up. If I was like that, the audience eats you alive. But if you come up full confidence, shoulders out, chest up, we're going to get some volunteers up here. Who wants to have the most amazing time? I'm reading your mind. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. Come on, let's get hypnotized. Boom, they come up. It has so much to do with the personality of the performer, right? That causes a stage hypnosis show to be successful or not, right? I've got students that are very low key. And I just say to them, look, you're going to be one character on stage and one character at home, right? My last name is Caruso. Anthony is my middle name. My name is Michael Anthony Caruso. And the C stands for Caruso, right? It's all backwards. And that all started because I was the second hypnotist on the internet, the second stage hypnotist. And when I heard about these thing called domain names, you couldn't just go to GoDaddy or wherever. That didn't exist. You had to call your internet provider and say, hey, can I get michaelanthony.com? And they said, let me check. Yes, it's available. We'll call you later on today. Things were just slower back then, right? And he calls me 4 hours later and says, somebody bought michaelanthony.com, right? And it turned out to be a jewelry store, big jewelry store. They're still there, Michael Anthony Jewelers, right? So they own it. So I was Michael-Anthony.com for a while. I didn't like it, right? It confused people. And so it's, web pages were starting to become popular now. What's your website? Michael-Anthony.com. Is that a dash or an underscore? And it's always confusing, right? So I'm like, I got to fix this. How do I fix this new problem? Because even though my last name's Caruso, I never used it because I don't know if you guys know of an old opera singer named Enrico Caruso. When I was doing my magic, they called Enrico Caruso the Great Caruso because he was an opera singer. People were calling me the Great Caruso when I was a kid. I didn't like it, right? I'm like, no, I want to be me. So I took Anthony. But my change in the domain, I'm like, well, I'm already using my middle name as my last. Why don't I put another letter in there? Just one letter, the C for Caruso, right in the middle, right? And I did that. And I didn't know it was going to be a good thing because when I was Michael-Anthony, you get every Michael Anthony in the world. You get every Anthony Michael in the world. It just gets confusing. Now, when someone types in Michael C. Anthony, I'm going to be either on the top or darn close to it. Right? That was my reason for changing all that stuff. And I would look at other hypnosis shows and I would say to myself, why does this person say this, but this person says this? Why does this person do this part over here and this person over here, right? I had a gigantic matrix of all these shows in my head, and I tried to put them together, but then here's what happened. As you know, with Mike Mandel, very, very intelligent guy, Mensa type IQ. And I said to myself, I can't do this. This is hard. There's too many holes in this. I don't think I can do it. I don't have the information. So I gave up for 2 years, right? 2 years. And then one day, I remember I was sitting in a rocking chair in the apartment I lived in at the time up in Canada. Suddenly it all just came back to me. Boom. Yes, you can do this. You can do this. So I started working and working and working. Was my first show everything it should be? My first show was great. I bet I look back now and go, oh, what were you thinking? Right? But that was my first try, not being trained, right? So once I had been doing this for over 20 years, I realized, because after that, I got to know Mike really well. Mike and I are best friends. We've been best friends since 1994, right? We talk pretty much every day, not yet today, but a lot yesterday and every other day. And so we became friends, but not friends because of hypnosis. We rarely talk about hypnosis. It comes up from time to time. But I realized there's a hole for good stage hypnosis training. And so I decided to start training because, you know, I knew guys in the hypnosis world, and not everybody, of course, but there are some shows out there. Just go to YouTube and you can tell it's not really a professional. The person, you know, isn't great at what they do. It might be a little tiny side project for them or something, but there's a lot of things that need to be known out in the world to really learn how to master stage hypnosis, not just as something you do on stage, but if you want to master it as a career, right? There's so many things, how to run it as a business, because I talk so much more in Stage Hypnosis University. I talk so much more about how to hypnotize. I talk so much more than that. I talk about how to be an entertainer that just happens to use hypnosis as your way to get you there, right? Because there are things going on a stage that people don't even realize. One of them is a love triangle, if you will. The hypnotist, his volunteers, and the third part of the triangle is the audience. Many hypnotists forget the audience is even there, right? They do all their things. People are up dancing, doing whatever, and it might be funny. They might be getting some laughs, but there's a disconnect. You ever been, imagine going to a concert. You go see Aerosmith, let's say, and they do 90 minutes or 2-hour concert, and Steven Tyler doesn't as much as say hello. They just go out and blow through 15 songs. That is a problem in the stage hypnosis world, because the hypnotists have funny things happening here and they don't connect it to the audience over here, right? They just do their thing and they're not connecting. I use my audience for indirect suggestions. I'm continually developing rapport with my audience. I'm selling the believability. I'm explaining some of the science about, not a lot, because I don't want that to be boring, but I'm explaining some of the science that's happening on the stage. So they understand, and this adds to believability. Because if you just get up there, hypnotize your 20 or 30 people, say thank you, good night, and you're not filling in the holes, the questions that your audience might have, then you're doing them a disservice. And they're going to walk out of there going, I don't know if I believed it, because you didn't give them anything to hang on to. In the therapy world, you're not trying to sell it to other people. You just got one-on-one or a group session. But while you are hypnotizing these 20 or 30 people, what most hypnotists don't realize is you're selling the believability to these people. You want them walking out going, oh my gosh, did you see how that girl couldn't remember her name? He had her so remarkably confused, and it was obvious by the look on her face how confused she was, right? So there's a lot that has to be done on the stage. Learning how to be an entertainer, there's so much more than just how to hypnotize, right? You have to learn the subtle secrets that I learned by being in the trenches for a long, long time. How can I make this suggestion more believable? How can I deliver my suggestion in a way that is giving remarkable anticipation to my audience? They can't wait for it. They can't wait. I don't trigger it right away. I'll set it up and I forget about it on purpose until I trigger it. Boom. The person does the thing and the audience cracks up, right? So how do you give that suggestion in such a way that you're not so detailed with it? You're giving your volunteers room to be creative. For example, if I said, I'm going to, anytime you hear me say the words full moon, you're going to jump out of your chair. You'll howl like a werewolf. You'll run to this side of the stage because you're so scared. Then you'll run to this side of the stage. I don't give the details like that. And here's why. If I give all the details in a suggestion, I've just told the punchline to the joke, right? I want to go in not knowing the punchline myself, right? So I'm going to deliver a suggestion. Anytime you hear me say the word full moon, you'll jump up out of your chair, you'll howl like a werewolf, all these different, a few different things. But so when they do it, whatever their reaction is after that is all them. And I didn't expect it. Maybe they do run. Maybe they blame the person beside them. Whatever it is, maybe they're blaming somebody in the audience for making this horrible noise. Maybe they're terrified and run out of the theater. I want to leave that open for them to do what they want, because then it cannot be any more authentic than it is. And it's sold so beautifully well that the audience just loves it. There's a saying in the world of hypnosis. There's a stage hypnotist is the director of a Broadway play with 30 participants that have never seen the script. So my job is to get a bunch of strangers on my stage. I haven't met one of them, right? But to develop rapport with them at the beginning of the show through mentalism, right? I develop my rapport there. Sir, stand up. Think of a number 1 to 100. Boom, I tell them what it is through a prediction. Minds are blown by the audience. So what's the audience thinking now? They don't know who I am. A lot of them don't know who I am unless I've been back. I've done one college 150 times in America, one college alone. And, different audiences, of course. But when I come out and do a piece of mentalism, what does that do to the audience? Think about it. You have to backtrack and think about every little move here for believability. When I come out and somebody thinks of a number 1 to 100, I predict what it is. Okay. That's one of the first things I do. Sometimes I come out on stage, ladies and gentlemen, Michael C. Anthony. I come out, I stand behind the microphone. I don't say a word. I just look at my audience, right? Until it starts to feel awkward, right? And then I just say, you in the blue shirt, stand up. Everyone's like, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? What's he going to do? He thinks of a number 1 to 100. I tell him what it is through a prediction. It's a mentalism effect. There's no such thing as real magic, as we know. Anyway, I tell him the number, or he reads the number on a pad. The whole audience goes, oh my gosh, Dave thought of the number 63. How could he have known that? How could Michael have predicted that on a pad? It does so much more than that. It develops rapport, yes. I'm telling jokes throughout the routine, yes. But most importantly, what it does, the people that are sitting in my audience are thinking, if he can do that, I'll bet he can hypnotize people too, right? It's a remarkable hypnotic convincer. So by the time I've done the mentalism, by the time I've done my lecture, which is very funny, a lecture, hypnotherapists would call it a pre-talk, right? Some hypnotists call it a pre-show talk. I don't call it a pre-show talk. And the reason I don't call it a pre-show talk is because this is not pre-show. My show is on. The show started the second they said my name, okay? The performance is on. So I was telling a student last night, a student from Hong Kong, and he was saying, but what if they don't want to? What if they don't want to? What if they don't want to? You have to keep reminding yourself. He was saying, what if I snap my finger and the person just doesn't want to? You've already jumped all those hurdles. And I've told him, don't think of volunteers as a barrier. Think of them as somebody that wants to help you, because here's what's happened so far. Now I say help, it's a weird way to say it. They want to be compliant. They've watched your mentalism. They like you. They've listened to your funny lecture about hypnosis. I've asked for volunteers. And if you think that people don't want to get up and do funny things, I say, look at karaoke. People want that microphone. They can't sing to save their lives, right? A lot of them. Some of them are great, obviously. But a lot of people can't sing to save their lives, but they want to be on that stage. They want the applause, right? Now, although I'm really hypnotizing these people, when I ask for the volunteers, if I've developed the proper rapport, which ones are coming up? The type of people that can think of nothing more they would love to do than be on a stage and be hypnotized and do the things that I've been talking about. Forgetting your name. You're gonna be dancing. I tell them a story from the stage of all the different things that are gonna be happening. And not during my exact show. I tell them a story of a past show, but I give a lot of details. So when my volunteers come up, who's coming up? It's the ones that are okay with dancing, the ones that would be okay with going onto the floor, because I tell the stories, the ones that would be okay with forgetting their name, howling at the moon, all the different things, right? So it's important for us as hypnotists to realize we're not dealing with, sometimes we are, but we send those people back to the audience very graciously. We're not dealing with people who are saying, okay, Michael, go ahead and try. You can't do it. That's not what we're dealing with. We think we are, but that's because of the lack of confidence, right? Once you've been doing this so long, it becomes, I love my job. It's a great job. But the more you do it, the more you expect. Think about if you went to go start a new job and it was day one of the job. Everything is new. Oh my gosh, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about this. And then when you've been there for 20 years, clock in, clock out. I'm not going to be surprised. I've seen it all, right? And that's where an experienced hypnotist, whether it be a therapist or whether it be a stage performer, that's where they just know this is going to work, right? Because, hey, are you going to every once in a while just get someone that says no? Yeah, that's someone you shouldn't have had as a client in the first place or on your stage in the first place. They're not ready. Right? But if you've got somebody ready, somebody who's willing to be compliant, whether it be therapeutically, whether it be, and when I say compliant, let's not confuse that and think of it as, I'll just do what you say, even outside of hypnosis. No, this is going to be all within the trance. I'm going to be looking for different trance indicators to make sure that these people really are hypnotized. So yes, back away from any fear that your volunteers aren't good enough. Don't even accept them as a subject until you know they're ready.
And that's why you're just more than just shake your ass hypnotist or stage.
Very true. It's funny it's funny you brought that up, right? Because when I was selected to do the Illusionists, and they looked around the world for their guy to do this or their gal to do this, they chose me. And I remember I was in LA, we had to do pictures. And the main producer came up to me and he goes, you want to know why we chose you? I said, why? And he said, because you're not a shake your ass hypnotist. I said, what's that? Right? And he said, so many hypnotists, all it is they get the volunteers shaking their ass, meaning dancing, right? Now you're a rock star. Now you're a ballerina. Now you're doing a Lord of the Dance. Now you're doing line dancing. How many ways can you make somebody dance? Or how many ways can you make somebody do something to music? And he told me, he said, your stuff is creative. Your stuff is full of hooks, different hooks. Like if one thing might be basic, I take it in another direction, right? He told me my material compiles on top of one another. I do callbacks like a comedy show, right? I snap people out of trance. I talk to them in a state when they're outside of hypnosis, but I already know because of the way I set up the hypnosis, shake my hand, sleep, boom, they're right back where I want them, right? So that's what he meant by you're not a shake your ass hypnotist. And I never thought of it that way before. But no, my routines aren't just let's always all do things at the same time. Some hypnotists do this because there's safety in numbers. They don't like doing single suggestions on volunteers. Not all, of course, but there are some out there that don't like to do single suggestions because it throws off their routine. They would rather just do everybody for the whole show and not snap them out of a trance, not say, hey, what's your name? Oh, my name is Dave. Hey, Dave, sleep, and give him some kind of singular suggestion of some kind, you know? So that's what he meant by that. So yes.
So now let's step off the stage for a second.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that book.
Okay.
How does that play with everything that you're doing?
Well, it really does. My book, Body Language Secrets, How to Read Minds by Reading Bodies. And I'm watching body language from the very beginning of my show. When I first get my volunteers, let's say there's 30 people on the stage, I can tell just by the way they're looking and by the way they're following instructions, whether they're going to want to be compliant or not. Every once in a while, you get a show with a couple clowns on stage. It's important to get them off. You know, they're not, clowns is a mean word. They're in a very difficult situation. They're on front. We have to realize for an audience, these volunteers to be on stage, that is very rare. To be on stage in front of an audience, I do it without even thinking about it, right? But for someone to be on stage is very rare. So they can tend to get nervous once in a while, some will. And I'll say, okay, everybody focus right here on my hand. Let's take a deep breath in and exhale. Take a deep breath in. I go through some patterns. When I have them inhale or exhale, every once in a while, I'll get something like this. You know, just kind of, they're not willing to concentrate. And to save the credibility of the show, it's important to get them off the stage quickly and politely, right? Because they'll start to get negative attention over time. But am I watching body language throughout a show? I bet you better believe I am. I'm watching their body language. When I tell people to stand with their hands at their sides and somebody immediately goes into a position like this, which is a negative defensive gesture, it can mean a couple things. Number one, it could mean they're cold. Stages are sometimes cold, right? But keep in mind, I've asked them to put their hands at their sides. If they've ignored this and done this, this is the arm cross. It's called negative defensive gesture. Where it comes from historically is you're protecting your vital organs, right? This is how somebody would protect themselves. So they're looking for protection. Even though I said hands to the sides, if they don't listen and go like this tells me, okay, here's a person that's probably struggling right now. We know they're not paying attention and they're being careful. They're a little bit nervous about everything that's happening up here, which is why I'll do something called setting up a trance. I set up a trance. It's a very easy way for people to go into hypnosis and a very quick and very easy way. So therefore, if they're nervous at first, they're not going to be nervous for long. Right? There are so many different things in the world of body language. That's why I called it How to Read Minds by Reading Bodies. It's called Body Language Secrets, How to Read Minds by Reading Bodies. And yes, if you can read somebody's body, you can be reading their mind, because a person is, it's difficult to, it's easy to say the right things, but it's difficult to control the body, especially the legs and the feet. You have people sitting, their legs are bouncing, their feet are tapping. Because the feet and the legs are the furthest part from the human brain, they're the hardest part to control. right? So get a look for people. And if somebody's nervous, don't just throw them off the stage, calm them down in one way, shape, or form, right? Body language is a fascinating topic, even off topic from hypnosis. This is just something I like to share. We wonder sometimes why we nod our head yes or shake our head no. There's a reason for everything, ladies and gentlemen. The nodding of the head yes, it means you're being compliant, you're being agreeable. It comes from a bow. Forever ago, people used to bow when they agreed, right? And now we're just down to this. Okay, we've shortened it. Why do we shake our head no? This comes from being an infant, and it just carries throughout generations. It becomes cultural, it becomes natural. We shake our head no. When we were infants and our mother was feeding us, whether it be from a breast or a bottle, when we were done, let's pretend this is the bottle. When we're done and it's in our face, we go like this. The mother's trying to put it in our mouth. We go like this. We go like, this is where it comes from, right? And we hang on to these things. There's so many fascinating things in the realm of body language to get a closer look into a person's motives as opposed to what they might be saying.
Nice. Now, this is all very interesting. Scott, do you have any questions you want to throw out here?
After over 30 years of doing stage hypnosis, there has got to be one memorable moment that sticks out in your mind above all the rest. What would that moment be?
Oh, I've got 100 of them. Let's see. You want to hear one, something happened to me, or do you want to hear something, a volunteer did something funny?
Whatever you want to share.
The most, yeah,
Okay, well,
whatever the most outlandish.
Okay, let's share this one because it's a little shorter. I don't want to talk about that forever, but here's what happened. I was in California, and I do a part of my show where I put a guy out and I pull out a broom, right? And I say, you're going to see me standing beside the most beautiful looking woman you've ever seen in your life. Absolutely gorgeous, all this stuff, okay? When the music starts at the count of 3, you won't be able to resist coming up and ask me if you can dance with her. And at this point, I'm standing on the broom with the stage. That's when the music starts on the count of 3, 1, 2, and 3. Music starts playing, okay? Guy gets up from whatever position he was, looks at me. I'm standing here with the broom. Looks at me, looks at the broom, and you can just see by the look on his face, like, right? Now, I've done this 1,000 times. It's funny every time, but not this night was even funnier. So he comes up and he's just looking at her and says, hey, can I dance with her? I've said, yeah, sure. So I give him the broom. He's dancing, he's touching, he's kissing, whatever he might be doing, right? Well, I'm watching this like I have 1,000 times. And out of my peripheral vision of the stage, I see some movement. And one of the girls that was standing, I had no idea she was the girlfriend of this guy dancing with the broom, right? And so she just walks over and I see her and I'm thinking to myself, what's going on here? She walks past me and goes to him, right? I'm like, oh, what's going on? And she walks up to him, grabs the broom, throws it on the ground and says, whore. This is stuff I can't write, right? Like, oh, why weren't the video cameras going? But there are so many unpredictable things, and that's why it's important to, when you give the suggestions, to allow creativity in the minds of the volunteers. Don't give your suggestions so detailed that the audience doesn't have anything to expect. I love a surprise on stage. I get them all the time because I deliver my suggestions in such a way that gives them room to be creative.
Nice. Now, speaking of all this, listen, how are our viewers, how are our audience going to get in touch with you? What should they do? How do they reach you? Where do we go?
Awesome. If they're interested in getting in touch with me in training and stage hypnosis, support@stagehypnosisuniversity.com is the email address, or you can go to stagehypnosisuniversity.com and you can go there, get a look around. If you want to set an appointment to talk with me, you can do that there, and we can talk about training. I've got students around the world doing incredible things. I only bring on a couple students a month, and that's important to me. I'm not trying to create 1,000 stage hypnotists. And two, is it at the right pace for me? Because I travel all the time. I'm going to New Mexico tomorrow for a show. But if anyone is interested in training or just has questions about training, I'm available to you. Stage Hypnosis University it's a giant video library plus one-on-one mentoring with me, where you and I get on Zoom calls like this, you and I get on the phone, and we build your show and we build your career together.
Beautiful, beautiful. We'll be sure to put those links up for our audience. And
Awesome.
it's been wonderful having you here, man. We've got so much from you. Scott, you got anything you want to throw out here?
Man, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us today.
Absolutely,
really appreciate it.
absolutely. I'm glad we could squeeze it in. You know, it's funny when you guys contacted me, and when Joseph said, you know what, you may not remember, but I got into hypnosis because of one of your programs, and now I'm doing this. Now I'm doing a podcast. Now I've got this. I'm like, look at you go, brother.
Right. Well, Mike, it's a pleasure. You have anything else you want to add besides that?
You know, just realize as a hypnotist, whether it's therapeutic, whether it's on stage, it is important. Your confidence is remarkably important, not arrogance, confidence. Because if whether it be on stage, whether it be in a therapeutic session, if you're fumbling, you break rapport, right? So that's why just have fun with it. Have fun with it. Don't take it so seriously. If somebody wants to change their life through hypnosis, if somebody wants to get up and quack like a duck on stage, if you've got them in the right place, if you've developed that rapport with them and they are agreeable to it, willing to be compliant, you will take them there legitimately, not somebody that's just going to go along and do what you say. Somebody who's truly ready to dive into the deep end of hypnosis, process unconsciously instead of consciously, you'll get amazing results, whether it be on stage or therapeutically.
Wonderful, wonderful. Hey, it's been such a pleasure traveling down your magical psyche highway today. And we're glad that you're here. And for our audience out there, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. If you like us, give us a thumbs up. If you think we're assholes, give us the thumbs down. We don't care. Just respond. Come back next week. Continue to see our show. Follow us. And once again, thanks for it. And Mike, it's been a pleasure. It's just been great having you on the show. And we'll see you next week, guys. Thanks.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Wow, what a trip. Thanks for taking that journey with us today. Please like us, share us, and enlighten us with your views of the topics we drove into today. We appreciate you and love reading your comments. Thanks again, and we hope to see you back on the bus next week. That's right.
So, Michael, how'd you get started anyway?